The opinions expressed in the following programs are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers nor Rogers TV.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the Post Office. I'm your host, Mayor Lisa Post. I'm really excited that you've joined us again. We've got our final council member that we're going to introduce to you today, and you get to learn a lot about them. So I'm excited to welcome one of our new councillors, Councillor Rick Stevens. Rick, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So we're going to dive right in. So you're new to council, so I know that the community is just going to be dying to hear about who Rick is, and we're going to leave the council stuff for the second half of the show. But for the first half, I just really want you to tell me a little bit about yourself. How long have you been in Orangeville? What's your past job look like? That kind of stuff. Tell me a bit about you.
So I was born in Toronto, and when I was 7, my mom had 4 boys, and she found herself a single mom. So she opened up a map, and she selected Shelburne.
Okay.
So I grew up in Shelburne. I had 3 older brothers, and I enjoyed doing things in the community there. I volunteered on the fire department up there for 12 years.
Oh, you were on the Shelburne Fire Department as a volunteer. That's great.
Yes. And then I obviously attended high school in Shelburne. And then I met my wife, and we ended up moving to Orangeville, and we've been here since 2003.
Oh, so you're still a newbie. You're like a brand new resident. That seems to be the way. If you've been here like 20 years or less, then you're still a newcomer, right?
Yeah, I still feel new too sometimes.
No doubt. But growing up in Shelburne, you're no stranger to the community. So tell me a little bit about life growing up in Shelburne. What was that like? I know the community has changed so much in Shelburne.
Yes. So it went from a small town of, say, 3,500 people to now it's over 10,000. It's different. I still call it home.
Yeah.
But I have a second home now. It's Orangeville. But yeah, growing up in Shelburne, I mean, you pretty much knew everybody. You know, got involved in the community. I was on the minor hockey board in Shelburne. I was on Center Dufferin Recreation, the complex board.
Oh yes, that's right.
They have a recreation board up there.
That's right, yes.
Made up of all the townships in the town, so I was on that. And like I said, I served as a fireman for 12 years, enjoyed that. And then I moved to Orangeville.
So you went to high school in Shelburne, which means that growing up we would have been rivals because there was always that Shelburne-Orangeville rivalry,
Pretty sure I'm a little older than you, though.
But still, we would have battled. That battle royale's been going on as long as I can remember anyway.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so then you moved to Orangeville, and what did you do for a career? So once you left the fire department?
So while I was on the fire department, I actually worked for the town of Orangeville in the recreation department. So I worked there for about 4 years. And then I was lucky enough to, I applied and got on to the Orangeville Police Service as a special constable, where I worked for 21 years.
That's awesome. So what does a special constable do?
So a special constable is, so I worked mostly either at the station or at the Dufferin County Courthouse. So you court security, you looked after the prisoners, you know, downstairs in the courthouse. You ever get a chance to go down and see the cells? Have you ever had a chance to go down and see the cells in the courthouse?
No, I haven't actually.
Fantastic.
Okay.
You have to make sure you take a trip down there.
Absolutely,
it's
that's
worth
very
a trip.
Cool.
A lot of paperwork, a lot of hands-on with the, the people that find themselves in a situation that I'm sure they don't want to be there. But I always treated them with a lot of respect because they're finding themselves in a bad situation. But we're all human and we make mistakes, and so I always treated them with respect, and in turn mostly got it back. So
what an interesting introduction to municipal government, though. So coming from working for recreation department into the police service, which of course was run by the town of Orangeville at that point. So yes. As a municipal employee in both of those different roles, what kind of skills did you learn and develop along the way?
A lot of customer service.
I bet. What were you doing with recreation?
I worked at the, so I was a part-time operator.
Okay.
So I got to drive the Olympia around.
Oh, you got to do the Zamboni drive.
Another one of those things you have to do.
Cool. I'd love
mayor.
to do that. Yeah.
It's it's exciting out there. Kids are watching you because that's their highlight, right?
Absolutely, that's the coolest job in town.
Yeah, no pun there.
Yeah, that's right. Pun totally intended.
But customer service is a big one because
Yeah.
I mean you're working for the town and sometimes the residents remind you of that.
Absolutely.
So you work
Absolutely.
for me. So
And then I guess through the police service as well, I'm sure that there was some really special skills required to be able to do that position, because I can't imagine that that was ever an easy job, and I'm sure every day was very different than the day before.
absolutely, there were some boring days, but there was also some pretty exciting days. You never knew because we held people who were in custody for whether it be a breach of bail or maybe a common assault or something, but then we also, had murderers that came in. So unfortunately that happened in our area because the courthouse looked after Caledon and Dufferin and Orangeville. So it was a busy little courthouse.
Absolutely, and it still is. I mean, there's a lot of people that pass through that building for sure. So police service then, so tell me about that. So, as you know, we switched over from OPS into OPP, and how did that transition go for you? Because you were in a unique position when that happened.
Yes. So I enjoyed my time at OPS, and I applied to the OPP. I was not successful, but that's okay because now I can find myself in a different situation still, helping out the town.
Absolutely, lots of learning along the way.
But I worked for 3 different chiefs, and Chief Freeman, Chief Tomei, and then Chief Kalinsky. So all 3 good men, but all 3 very different.
Absolutely. Absolutely, that's very cool in itself. So when it comes to leadership within a police service, how does that whole structure work?
So the chief, and then he at the time we didn't have a deputy chief until near the end, but used to had 2 inspectors. One would look after the officers, and one would look after all the civilian staff. So us and dispatch and stuff. But almost like a army life. Very strategic.
I was going to ask that because I'm fairly accustomed to kind of the military rank system with a son who was in the military and kids who were both part of the Army Cadet Corps, that there's really that reporting line and chain of command that you follow. And is that similar within the police service?
Absolutely. And that's probably why you find me maybe a little bit more quiet than some on council, because we were, you didn't really speak until you were asked to speak.
Right.
So, but I'm getting there.
Yes.
I'm learning.
That's interesting. No, that's really interesting. That's really good insight, actually. And, that's why these conversations are so cool, because I get to learn a lot about you, but the community gets to learn a lot about you as well. So that's a bit of your professional background. So tell me a little bit about your personal life. Like, what do you like to do? What are you a part of? I know everybody on council is so active in volunteering in the community and just being a part of everything. So what is it that Rick does?
So when Rick moved to Orangeville, Rick sat down with his wife and we had to make a decision. So because I wanted to join the fire in Orangeville because it was bigger, and I thought, oh, maybe there's opportunities, maybe I could go full time, but I was really involved in minor hockey, and they're both basically, even as a volunteer fireman, it's basically another full-time job.
Absolutely.
And so is hockey. So Sue and I, my wife, we sat down and I chose hockey. Just because I can kind of maneuver it between my, OPS job, and so that's what I did. So I joined both boys and girls hockey board when I moved to Orangeville, and because I had a son and a daughter playing.
So you had both kids involved in hockey.
Yeah, so my wife and I were going different ways all the time.
Absolutely, that's challenging.
Yeah, so then I ended up becoming the president of Orangeville Minor Hockey, which is the boys, and so I've been president now for 16 years.
Wow, 16 years in that same role.
Yes.
So what does the president of Orangeville Minor Hockey do? What are you responsible for as that role?
So, just like yourself, you have to, make sure you have great staff, and I do. We have the 17 board members, including myself, and it takes all 17 to run the organization.
How many teams are there within the organization?
So last year we had 67 teams.
Which is roughly how many youth in our community that are involved then?
Last year we were just under 1,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really
And that's
incredible.
gone down. We were more than that before the pandemic.
Yeah.
But we're slowly rising. So we just had our tryouts for rep, and the most tryouts we've ever had was this year.
Oh, really?
Yeah, back in the early parts of May.
That's
so
amazing.
the largest turnout we've had. So hopefully kids are going to come back. We all know hockey is expensive.
Yep.
But, I can tell you a little story. I was sitting in the office one day, and a 16-year-old boy came in, and he goes, "Is there any chance I can play hockey?" And this was maybe a week or two after the league started. I said, "Absolutely, we'll put you on a team." He goes, "But I have an issue." I go, "What's that?" He's like, "Well, I can't really afford to pay all of it at once, and my parents can't help me right now." I said, "Well, then go get your stuff, and I'll make you a deal. You pay me $25 a month, and we'll make sure that you get to play, because I won't turn anybody away."
That's awesome.
If we can't get through Jumpstart, then there's other members of the community that will help out. So we
amazing.
never turn anybody away.
That's really good to know. And, with life becoming more and more unaffordable as we continue to hear, it's really good to know that our youth programs like this, which are such important programs in the development of kids, whether they're involved in sports or something else, getting them involved in something is so important. And if their passion is hockey and you can help them out, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, I was pretty happy about that. But like I said, I have 17 or 16 other people, and we just make it work.
That's awesome.
So
you've got the 16 people that's part of the board, but then you
Yes.
also have coaches and full teams
Yes.
underneath that, right?
Yes. Coaches, assistant coaches, trainers, managers, and then the house league. Not quite as extensive, but they usually have a coach, an assistant coach, and a trainer. You have to have a trainer for every game.
Right.
Obviously, it's Hockey Canada rule.
Yeah.
And safety is number one. So.
Excellent.
But yeah, there's I would say we're probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 250 volunteers that within our association. So
That's really incredible. I mean, our community is full of volunteers, and it's so great to see that whether they're coming out to volunteer for sports or events or not for profits, that they're coming to support something.
No,
So
we have an amazing community, really.
we really do. Now, you said that you were involved in hockey in Shelburne as well back earlier on. Was their setup similar?
Yeah, just not quite as big.
Okay.
They probably only had somewhere in the neighborhood of 250 to 300
They
kids.
have one ice pad or two?
Just one.
Just one,
Yeah,
okay.
well, we have four. So.
We have four, yeah, so that becomes a
Yeah.
bit different.
Yeah, so it was smaller, and I wasn't the president, thank goodness. Although I enjoy it.
Yeah, that's good.
But yeah, it was a little smaller and not as many executive, but
So now hockey's over for this season.
hockey's
but
never over.
I know, that was going to be my question, is that, so the season that we know, because there's
Yes.
no ice left in Orangeville, so
Yes.
what are you doing in the summer as president of Orangeville Minor Hockey? What do you have to do to keep going?
Yeah, we meet with the Tri-County, that's the league that the rep play out of.
Okay.
And then Headwaters, so we named Headwaters, that's our local league, so all the kids that play local. So we play against Caledon and Erin in a little local league, and Center Wellington's going to join this year.
Oh,
So that's
great.
what our house league kids play for.
Yeah.
But they get a little bit of traveling, but not near as much as the rep.
Right.
I mean, the rep go as far as Owen Sound to Niagara Falls.
Wow.
And that could be any time on a Monday to Sunday. Like,
That's
it's
amazing.
crazy. So
Excellent. So you were in hockey. Was there any other volunteer stuff that you were doing around the community? I know that consumes a lot of
Yeah.
your time.
not really. I wasn't on any other boards, just because of the time commitment that took.
Right.
And it still does. So
So then you're Orangeville Minor Hockey, you've left the Orangeville Police at this point, and you decide somehow to turn around and run for council. So tell me a little bit about that. What drove you to run for council? What was the reaction of your family?
we'll start with the easy one.
Okay.
I wanted to do it forever. And as a town employee, we weren't allowed.
That's right.
So, and I mean, I completely understand why. Conflict of interest
Yeah.
and things. So, but yeah, I always wanted to do it, and so I put my name out there, and I wasn't sure if I was going to make it, because I mean, it's hard to make it the first time. It's
Yeah.
hard to make it any time, really, when you have 10 other people, going for the same position when there's only 5. But I was lucky enough to win this time. My family supported me. My wife Sue was a little like, "Are you sure you want to do that?"
Well, it's a lot. It's a lot on the families. It's a lot on your kids. It's a lot on yourself when you put your name out there to represent the community, and that name can be tarnished sometimes. If there's decisions that aren't fan favorites of the community, it can be really tough, especially with social media. So I'm sure your wife probably had some reservations, and so did your kids. So it's understandable that they wanted to check in to make sure you were sure.
Yeah. Well, my youngest Luke, he's in grade 9 West Side, so he was a little apprehensive of like, "You sure you want to do that, Dad? Because people are going to know who I am." Yes, Luke, they will.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm super excited to do it. I'm still learning. I didn't realize how much you had to learn.
There's a lot.
So, that few days that we did the orientation, not even,
Barely touches the surface, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how's it been going so far then? So you decided to run. So was there a specific issue that really led you to want to run, or did you just want to run as a way of giving back to the community?
A bit of both.
Okay.
I always wanted to give back. I mean, I love to volunteer, and I knew I had the time now that I'm retired, shall we say.
Yeah.
So I knew I had some time available, and and a lot of it's during the day because we can get out and do different committees and stuff during the day. So it worked out well. Something that, I mean, I have to do a 180. I was against the buses,
right.
that.
Yeah, I do.
Not against the buses, but the paid,
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
the free rides.
Yeah.
So I have to, that's worked out well, and I have to, eat some crow on that one.
No, not at all. And you know what? That's where the best decisions come from, is when we have a little bit of opposition. If we just agreed on everything, nothing successful would be done. I think some of the best ideas are completely formed when we don't see eye to eye on something. And our council's so amazing because we have such respectful, open discussion about things, and we can learn from each other and then come to a strong solution.
No, absolutely. Like I said, that was one of the things I ran on.
I love that. That's great.
And now that I see, I mean, my kid's out there using it all the time.
I love it.
Like he'll hop on the bus, and why? I mean, I live probably, I don't know, not even a kilometer away from the school, and he rides to the bus. Sometimes he'll take the bus home.
Yeah.
But he has to do the whole, circuit before he gets home.
Yeah.
He goes, "I was hanging out with my friends."
Perfect.
Well, good for you. Make sure that you give someone else a seat if you don't need to be there.
Well, and some of it with the youth in our community is that they're just not familiar with transit because they don't use it the way that city kids tend to use it. So I know kids in Toronto are well versed in how the bus system works from a very young age.
Yes.
But for the kids here, they just weren't. So some of it was they weren't taking it because they weren't comfortable.
Exactly.
And this is a pretty cool way to get them comfortable with the route. So
sure
your son
is.
must be an expert now on the routes.
Yeah, he probably is.
He could get you from point A to point B.
Yeah, exactly.
So was there any other issues that kind of led you to run?
Well, I mean, I go out there and I see a lot of sporting events and buildings and centers and not that ours, some of ours need some updating.
Absolutely.
And that was one of the things, because I mean, my son still plays rep baseball, he plays rep hockey. I've had other kids that played rep hockey and soccer and different, and I just find that we need to, I know that we've been out there working on our trails, and our trails are becoming amazing, but I still think our centers need to be, there needs to be some focus on our centers.
Absolutely, and I think as we move through the process, I mean, we're going to start a bit of a feasibility study that's being conducted in-house, just really to understand what we have, what we need, what's changed in the recreation community, because as our communities become more diverse, it has changed. We are getting asks for different things. We've got huge requests for cricket pitches. The senior community, more than anybody else, wants more pickleball, enough pickleball to just keep them playing pickleball forever. I didn't know it was going to be such a hot thing. But I think that your voice on towards some of those things as we start talking about those initiatives, it's going to be great, because I know you're so heavily involved in sports. I'm not so much, so my voice won't come with as much weight for that, for sure.
But I'm willing to work. Like I want to be there for everybody. Awesome. Like I said, it's not just hockey.
No,
it's not just baseball. It's not. There's lots of different sports in town, and as you say, things are changing, and I want to move forward and have everybody have a seat at the table, so to speak.
That's great. And we're going to be doing some really cool stuff over the next few years. There's going to be a lot of decisions to have to be made about some of those things. So we know that Tony Rose is at its end, and we're going to have to make some tough decisions about that building over the next couple of years.
Yes, we will.
So we'll shift gears a little bit. So you talked about getting some new learning in place, and learning as a counselor can be challenging, and sometimes it's a little on the go. So you've taken on some new roles as well as counselor, some new portfolios with committees and other boards. So do you want to talk a little bit about those?
Sure. So I'm chairing the Access Orangeville.
Which is awesome.
Yes, thank you. I know that was your baby.
That was my baby. I'm so excited that's in such good hands.
Yeah, well, thank you. Again, and I got James. He's co-chairing it with me, and
which is great.
Yeah, and I mean he's been there before, and I can rely on him to help me out. But got a good committee there. We've only met twice, but we're looking forward to some initiatives.
Well, and they're a fired up group. I mean, having chaired it the last term, this is the majority of people have lived experience where they meet barriers in our community that you and I as able-bodied people just don't experience in the same way. So their voices are very strong, and they're great advocates for our community.
Yes, absolutely. And my mom was actually super excited. So she's 80, and she has a disability, and she also lives with us. But so she's like, hey, what's going on here?
That's good.
So she keeps me on my toes.
Absolutely, absolutely. That'll be great that she can bring some concerns to you as well.
Yeah. And then I'm on the POA, so the Provincial Offences Act. The courthouse, the committee that's run through the county.
Yeah.
So that.
How often do they meet?
Quarterly.
Okay.
So it's not too bad. And right now it's on Zoom, but hopefully it'll get back in person. But so we've only had one of those meetings, but it's nice that when the officers are out there writing some tickets, we get some revenue.
Yes, absolutely.
So it's nice. It goes into the pot, and so we get that quarterly. So that's nice that we get a little bit of kickback, so to speak.
Yeah, definitely. And then you've also taken on a big one.
Yes.
The Credit Valley Conservation Authority. So, and that's a huge one. And there's so many changes right now at the provincial legislation level when it comes to what the role of conservation authorities is and what it's going to become. So you're there at a really interesting time. So how's that going so far? Very
interesting. It's in it's in person. We meet down in Mississauga at their office. Obviously from Mono to Mississauga, so there's different, lots of different council that I've met, and they're all passionate, very passionate about, the environment, and I've certainly, that's probably my biggest one so far. I mean, taking Access Orangeville, I know it's very big,
yeah,
between
absolutely.
you and I, but I would say Credit Valley's, it's even,
Well, it's a beast because not only does it cover such a huge geographic area, it covers so many different species and components, from water to different plant life to everything in between.
Yes. I know my first meeting I attended, we had to make a major decision. And I'm like, I don't know if I know enough about this to make a major, like to have my voice heard. So I sat back, I listened, and I voted with my heart.
Good.
So, but yeah, it was, just jumped in with both feet. Because, it's not like they just started.
No, that's right.
So.
That's right. And I do think it's going to be such an important piece that we've got somebody from Orangeville Council representing on that board. Like I said, there's a lot of provincial changes coming down the pipe, and we need somebody from our community to be really advocating for the things that Orangeville needs. So I'm really glad you're sitting at that table.
Yeah, some of the, so when we had our open house last week, I know one of the managers got me after, and he was like, Rick, we may need your help. Something has to go to CVC, and we need you to help us get it through.
Okay.
I said, well, do my best.
Yeah, exactly. But we need that strong voice. A lot is changing and a lot of moving parts. And as we continue to develop and grow and our community continues to change, and climate change continues to impact us. This is a really key one.
Yeah, and you know, one of the things I didn't realize was, you know, yes, we have great staff, but then they have so many roadblocks that they have to go through to get something done, and you know, you see why it takes so long.
Right.
You know, because I mean, you have to go to the CVC, then they have to have a meeting to discuss it, and it goes back, and then it comes back again.
Right.
You know, 'cause I know they're doing that with the trails right now. So,
Okay, very good.
So yeah, interesting.
Very interesting. And again, I think that the landscape of our community is going to change a lot. And I think we'll see a lot of that change within our term. So that'll lead me to kind of the last couple of minutes of our discussion before we're done. But what's your vision for the next couple of years of this term? What do you see, what are some key pieces that you'd really like to see move forward? What are some important projects that you want to move ahead?
Well, recreation.
Yeah.
You know, I'd like to get out there and see if, you know, we can at least start the process. You know, and as you said, we're going to do the feasibility.
Yeah.
But you know, let's not just work on it. Let's get it done.
Yeah, we got to get some work ahead on that for sure.
And I know Rotary Parks, you know, it's moving forward, and I think that's going to be great for our community.
Yeah.
Accessibility. I mean, you know, we're still working on some things behind the scene. We've hit a couple roadblocks. You know, with one is the disabled parking down on Broadway.
Yep.
Because of the slope, it's hard to get more spots.
Right.
You know, so we're working with town staff, and Tony has been excellent.
Yeah, good.
Like,
We've got great town staff.
You know, he's by far like he's great.
Yeah.
So, but he's looking into where else we can put, you know,
Good.
some parking spots, especially when we have the farmers market, because we lose the ones, you know,
Yeah.
at town hall there, and so.
Good. So that's a
But
couple of pieces.
Yeah, just, you know, I'm again still getting my feet wet.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it would take this long, because I mean, usually I jump in and you know, and I'm like, okay, I'm jumping in, but you know, I'm really wet.
Well, it's so great to be working with you, because honestly, I know how hard it is to get caught up in all things municipal government. Municipal government is very complex with lots of layers and lots of moving pieces. And the provincial government has thrown a lot of hurdles at us right from opening the gate. So there's been a lot of changes that even our staff is trying to catch up to as soon as we get going.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you know, what I appreciate is that you've always taken the time to reach out when you've got questions. You're doing your due diligence, making sure you know, you've read and know your agendas, asking questions to staff. And that's the best way to learn and to really understand the projects.
Yeah, and staff have been great, you know. You know,
Excellent.
they come in, they say, come on in, we'll have a chat. So we do. So that's great.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So we're down to the last couple of seconds here before we're going to wrap up for the day. So what are your final last words to the community while you're here?
Well, just want to thank everybody who did vote for me, and obviously I'm going to work hard for everybody, even if you didn't vote for me, and you vote for me next time.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for being here tonight, Rick. I think it's been a great opportunity for the community to get to learn all about everything that you do and what you're looking forward to doing in the community. And to everybody out there, thank you so much for joining in tonight. I look forward to seeing you again. So join us for the next episode of The Post Office.